copy of what's taking place now. What I'm proposing to do in an effort to save $11,760 is remove drinking fountains from St. Joseph. I think, David, that one's already gone away due to compressor problems and so on and so forth. Campbell Park, Daniels Lake, for potable water, we're required, if it's got a drinking fountain provided, we're required by the Department of DEP to have the water tested every quarter. And through the testing, it's costing us $17,520. If you remove the drinking fountains from the parks, not the water in the bathrooms, not the toilets, not the water spigots. By removing the drinking fountains, the Department of Health will take over the testing at a savings of $11,760 a year. I brought this up about 3 months ago, and it died of a lack of a second. And I was asked by this board to bring this back after school got back in session. The kids wouldn't be as frequenting the parks as often. Just in an effort to save, I'm not saying we're doing away with the water spigots, just the drinking fountains, though I'm asking to do away with, and instead of the DEP testing, the Department of Health, which we already contracted with across the street, will take that over.
None of these have kitchens, do they? I forgot to discuss that.
Yeah, the ones that's got kitchens, I'm not proposing to change them at all.
Okay.
That's Orange Hill and Blue Lake.
Gotcha.
5 points and Kingston Crossroads.
But that's called a limited use category, is how it falls into it, and we checked it. We checked out, yes, sir. We checked out once a quarter,
Okay.
rather than once a month.
What's the rates at the health department charge?
$60. On some of them it'll be once a year. On Campbell Park, St. Joseph, Daniel Lake, and Washington County Park and Rec, of course, Washington County Park and Rec is being turned over to Tri-County now, but that is $60 a year. 5 Points and Henson Crossroads will be $60 a quarter, and in Blue Lake and Orange Hill will be $230 a month. Regulated by the state, we have to.
So you got 3 kitchens, right?
Well, the Henson Crossroads is going to go to the limited use, yes, sir. But now Blue Lake and Orange Hill has
What
to.
justifies the limited use?
The amount of usage that it gets.
What record do we have to show that it's
The rental rate. Yes.
What use?
And it's also the recommendation of Mr. Register, who's currently the water tester, that we put that on limited use.
Let me ask the attorney a question.
Go ahead.
Under this circumstances, just for clarification, Jim, they've tested just once a year. What if we come up? What's our liability? If something does happen, somebody gets sick from that water.
From a liability standpoint, obviously, if you're not in compliance with the state statute or state law, that is not going to play out favorably in court. If something happens out there, I can't give any assurances to this board that a good plaintiff's lawyer will craft a complaint to somehow include some standard that the county owed to whoever the person is who got sick. Our de facto response is going to be, we're not required to by state statute. I had recommended at the board meeting this originally came up to post signs at the entrances or around the park talking about the lack of water fountains or 2 testing, and that way there would be some sort of notice element. We're not required to do that at all, but my thought with the liability is you can't prevent the suit, but as far as posting something at the front about there's not a potable water fountain here or whatever that sign's going to say, there are ways to put people on notice. I don't necessarily think from a testing standpoint, we're not required to by state statute. If somebody were to get sick out there, I think that there would have to be some sort of element or known or should have known that there was something going on with that drinking water. Now, if somebody comes to us and says, hey, person A was out there a week ago, drank the water and got sick, that's gonna trigger some notice, we've got to take some proactive steps, but at this point, there's nothing requiring us to do that. I would like us to put, some version of notice on a sign just to help ourselves in case, because there's a history and habit of having this drinking water out there. And so from that means, I would like to have some sort of notice sign put up, which would be a pretty cheap remedy that we can point to if we ever get litigation on the matter.
What, once the health department takes this over, would they not acquire some of that liability?
They would. And I don't think, unless somebody could show some sort of notice on our behalf that something was going on with that drinking water, I would not feel very strongly about that case from the plaintiff's side.
Well, just from my thinking, I can understand the kitchens. I just don't understand why DEP uses water fountains as a scenario.
Sure.
So you drink it out of the hose bib as quick as you can with water fountain, and that's my contention on it. I just don't understand their rationale.
Well, I had a long conversation when this issue originally came up, because that was my thought. I mean, when I was sick, if there was water and it was coming out of a hose or a faucet tap, I'd been on there and get it. And so, but their thinking is a little bit different on the issue, and they have assured me, and the state statute says that in those types of situations, we don't have to live up to the same testing as we do with, let's say, a kitchen or a normal type water fountain. But I think from a liability standpoint, I'm not as concerned with that, especially if I'm more concerned with an expectation of being water out there based on use and not notice, and somebody gets, in a dehydration situation. But I think we can help ourselves there with some notice requirements. I'm not as worried about contamination with something coming out of a low-level faucet.
David, how often do you check those wells?
I do not. We've always had a contract with we bid it out, and Mr. Rester's had the contract.
Since 2001, last time we bid out.
I did about 15 years ago, I was toting water samples and collecting them and carrying them to Graceville.
Let me rephrase it. That's not necessarily referring to testing as it was. How often is someone there to see that those wells are functioning properly?
Every week. We got a crew that goes by, checks the garbage, makes sure there's no leaks. The board has set aside a fee, but there is waivers. As everybody knows, a county organization can use that building. So fire departments use them that I do not know about, so I can't actually give a true figure. When I was asked one time by Mr. Register how many people, clarification, what I know about is what we rent. All the waivers and the fire departments that use them for training, I don't know how many uses in kitchens. Have no way of knowing that. Don't have a roster. But Mr. Hagan might, but just clarification on the amount of numbers, anything that's waived or the fire departments, I don't have that number.
I'm not proposing to change the laws here, gentlemen. All I'm looking at doing is taking the water testing on all locations with exception of 2 from the DEP, giving them to the Department of Health for a savings of $11,000 a year. I'm not proposing to change the law or put anybody in danger.
Well, why don't you take it up to
Because they're rental places with the kitchen with high usage, that's why.
because they're rental places
Yes, sir.
and they're high use.
They're high usage. It's regulated by the DEP and stuff.
Well, I think these others are high usage too, and that's a matter of protection there. And the park's now full of people. That's wicked,
So what was it?
county,
But
full of people.
I'm proposing to take that drinking.
And you're
back.
taking something out that came with grant. And I don't know if you take that element out of there.
Yes, sir, I've already done that investigation.
Anything else, Tim? No, I have a problem giving some people, like, taking away from the other people.
equal.
We are.
I don't think you are. I don't think you are.
Maybe there should have been a, exercise run on the usage of all the non-kitchen one as well, and make a determination overall on what was used or not used throughout the whole county, not just use the kitchen as a scenario to make to render this decision on a rental basis. But the ones that's non-rental has a lot of activity too, so to be fair throughout, that scenario should have been run in my opinion.
The scenario I was using, Commissioner Carter, is the regulations by the state. Is the regulations that I was using, that, you know, how they regulate the kitchens.
I understand that, but these other have a lot of use too, like
Yes.
on St. Joseph, Daniels.
Let me ask, when the Department of Health does their, testing, is it testing the same test that, Mr. Register does?
Yes.
It's just once a year, instead of once a quarter.
Yes, sir.
You got something that they're willing to